When we're coaching, so often many things come into play. And when I look at the typical workplace, and I don't think anyone should assume that we don't embody some of these things inside our cultures. And when we think about before coaching, so often people will do what we call listen emotionally. They'll hear one thing and they'll emotionally spin it, and then they're going to want to share it. And that typically happens at the water cooler. If we don't teach or coach or mentor people to listen factually, so many things can be taken out of context. So think about this. When was the last time you heard a positive rumor at the water cooler? Now, let's also look at it from an employee perspective. When we go up to employees and we say, your boss is going to call you in the office, what's your first impression? It's usually, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Why is that? It's because we've kind of nurtured that. We've kind of cultivated that perception and that expectation. So with that being said, how often have we heard this? So-and-so told me, well, I heard from some people. And then you ask them, oh, who'd you hear it from? And then ultimately, they don't remember. And sometimes they really don't remember, which means what? They're just starting a rumor. And people go through this emotional interpretation. We put our own spin on it so we can kind of own it. Or how about that person who has that manic response? You know, the type of people who make statements such as, they never listen to me. They never let me share my ideas. It's always this absolute, like there's no room whatsoever. It's never. Now, when I think about after coaching, look at how conversations can help the workplace. Think about from water cooler to coffee break. Assign your people time to meet other people in the organization, even inside your own department, and schedule coffee breaks as long as they do two things. They share two unique things they learned about that person. What that does is it steers the conversation towards positivity. And then call people into your office for the good things they're doing. And then instead of the typical so-and-so told me, bring people into your office and ask them, what's going on that I need to learn from you? Share with me some things that you'd like to educate me on. The written communication can be so powerful, and do it carefully. Send a note praising somebody and copy your boss. Do you know what happens to trust when we do things like that? It explodes, it accelerates. And last, one of the best questions we can ask anybody is the self-actualized question, which is a what question plus a success imperative. What are you going to do to successfully offset those conversations at the water cooler? What are you going to do to successfully share that with your peer from a positive perspective? What are you going to do to really factually listen successfully so you can avoid some of the interpretations some of your teammates are exhibiting? Remember, if we don't coach people and frame and build awareness, conversations will gravitate to what we let our employees gravitate to. It's not with malice or poor intent. It's just what human beings do. Go to a sporting event. And how often do we sit in the stands and we hear fans criticize professional athletes? Oh, by the way, they're the one who reached the professional level. Yet we all have an opinion. And that opinion sometimes can really erode the corporate workplace. So I go back to the start of this short micro video, and that is, are you listening emotionally or are you listening factually? If we start there and people practice listening factually, guess what happens? The after coaching becomes more easy to implement. It becomes more palatable for managers to deliver because they're not delivering messages or responding to some of the before coaching attributes we just talked about.